Okay, welcome back. We will proceed. We have no delegations and petitions this evening. Move on to item 6, Committee of the Whole. First item on the agenda is 6. Oh, sorry. I will pass the floor to our chair, Councillor Pettering.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess we'll finish our budget presentation from last week. So I'll pass it back to...
You can pass it to me, but I did such a fine job, Mr. Chair, last time that I decided that I depend on Ms. Craddock way more than I thought. And so she has more documentation than I have. So I'm going to pass it on to Ms. Craddock to take us on. And what I explained to Ms. Craddock, and I do apologize for the last meeting. Sincerely, but we do apologize. Where we were at, we're discussing the explanation as to where the money is. And so the document. So we were talking about the projects and how they were funded, and that what you saw on your sheet is not all of the funds, because there are dedicated reserves, and I'll have Ms. Craddock just take over and bail me out and get me out of this mess.
Yeah, so you were shared, I believe, on Friday, and you should have it in front of you, the dedicated reserves for water and sewer. So what you had in the package was the general reserve for water and sewer. So water and sewer maintains a general reserve, much like the municipality's overall general reserve. And that's what was in your original package. And then additionally, there are dedicated reserves that go along with water and wastewater. So you'll see, we label one infrastructure, we label the other equipment and fleet. So when we look at, where we started 2024, in that, water and sewer had depleted its equipment reserve in 2023. So it was starting with 0, and then we added to it in 2024. Water and sewer, because of the distribution and collection, does sometimes get into shared assets with Public Works. And so that's why the reserve had ended up so low, as they were purchasing equipment together with water and sewer. Now, you'll remember in 2024 that there had been a Vector truck proposed in the initial equipment budget for 2024 that it was, again, a shared asset between Public Works and water and sewer that was not purchased. And, so that was sort of canceled, which is why we're sort of carrying these ending balances forward. So like everything else with our reserves, that ending balance carries forward for future projects. So you put in money each year, don't necessarily use all the funds in that year, and projects, and then the ending reserve balance carries forward. In 2024, in the projected expenditures, the projects that are work in progress. So the big one being that in 2024, we awarded the work for King Street to Deep Construction. And there were a couple of small projects that were considered work in progress. So I've captured all of that into the projected expenditures line, just so that we know at the end of the year how much is kind of reserve that can be used for new projects or for things going forward. So then we start and roll through and look at the additions into 2025. You'll see that the addition into infrastructure has increased slightly from 2025, and you would have seen that in your operating statement. It's actually not new money, but in May of this year, one of the water and sewer loans is finished. We're got it paid back in full. And so we took the principal and interest payment that we had been making on that loan and rolled it into reserve. So it was a loan that was for capital projects from 2010. It was when we did the ComRIF stuff. It was the ComRIF number 2, which was some of the downtown work on the storm sewer separation. We did work in 2009, 2010 that we got financed. And so I think I said it wrong. Yeah, but it's paying off in May of this year. And so then we took that payment and that's been moved into the reserve. So it's just that part year, which is why we've got the little bit addition of funds going into the infrastructure reserve. So then, as you can see, there's, 3.3 almost 3.4 million that will be available. However, you have almost 3.4 million of projects that were posed. So they have this list of projects that I believe Mr. Ming went through with you last meeting. All of the projects that are in this list of infrastructure can be achieved with the funds that are available, and it will deplete the balances, to almost nothing, but we do have the reserves available for that. I understand there was some question about some of the things that had been on project lists in prior years. So the Werner Water Tower had been on a prior year. The generator had been on a prior year. Because those projects didn't really get started, there was a little bit of sort of planning expense. I did not capture them in WIP. So this is, the funds that didn't get used on those projects is sitting in the ending balance of your reserves and is moving forward to the new numbers that are here. So that's what happened with those projects, kind of in rolling forward on those projects, because they didn't hit the stage where they were actually sort of working. So the money for the generator that didn't get spent in 2024 sits in that ending reserve balance, and then Mr. Ming has put the full 900 back into the expectation in 2025. And I apologize if there were, that's sort of how the capital funding and how the money is sort of moving around in that. Were there other specific questions about operating or capital? I could start you all over and, I can talk fast and we could be through it in 15 minutes anyways, but certainly I don't want to sort of start from the beginning again, so.
Ms. Greta, if you could go back, let's say, for example, the water tower in Werner. Okay?
Yeah.
We went back to 2022 and we were supposed to realign. Remember how much that was at the time?
Burner one. The breakdowns were it's $180,000 was the estimate for addressing the piping. There was another 250,000 for the interior lining. That's what you just specifically asked about. So 250 was the projected cost back in 2023.
Okay, and that would show up. You would move that to where? Which page?
So that because the project wasn't started, we don't have any work in progress. Mr. Ming has given us new numbers. The unspent money just sits in the ending balance for reserve. It's not being held, it's not carrying forward. So it's carrying forward in that ending balance for reserve, so that when we have the 280, that's a new 280. It's not taking the carry forward. All that carry forward is just sitting in the reserve.
I'm just curious. I'm lost a lot of times. I don't know. It would be nice to see that number specifically show up in the column. It's a number. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I mean, it's in your project list, and so sometimes like what we have when we have projects that are work in progress and are carrying forward, and we will show you that work in progress. This project is one that has evolved and changed from when it was first proposed in 2022. We were going to do this, and then we came back with a different plan in 23, and it sort of has been that. So it's not a project that's been continuous, and it's not funds that have been dedicated and set aside and held for that. It's just in the reserve, in the overall reserve, so that if council said, hey, you know what, we're not going to do the water tower, the funds are available for other projects. I'm not recommending council do that, but that's where it is. It's just sitting in the general reserve because it's not dedicated to that project.
Yeah, because it's hard to understand because, like I say, in 222, okay, we're supposed to realign then change of plans. We were supposed to do a glass liner instead when Mr. Correll came in. And then the base wasn't good, so change of plans. So it's hard to follow the money. It'd be nice to see it specifically in the column. This was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and so because it's not dedicated to a specific project, because the project is sort of, at the end of 2022, that project collapsed and we have a 2023 project that is different. It's not a continuation of the project. So the funds get just sent back into that infrastructure reserve. They're not held, specifically for that project. Yeah.
Anybody else, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I think that, I think that one of the things that is confusing, at least for me and perhaps for other members, is that when we approve a budget, and we approve capital projects, we then have no idea what is canceled, what is put off, what's not feasible. And so the mid-year reporting or the reporting along the way doesn't give us a sufficient amount of information. In previous budget workbooks for water and sewer, we have been given a list of the committed projects for the previous year. So I'm looking at the 2023 water and sewer budget right now, and there is a list of committed projects. So one committed project that we have would be the King Street from Market to Ethel. So we know that's there. We know the money, I'm assuming the money is somewhere, and it's not included in the budget documents that we're looking at now. But we also have we're not really kept up to date on which of the capital projects have gone through. Have they started? Have they been completed? Have they been completed on budget? And so it's very hard for us to kind of, when it comes time to do the next year's budget, we had a generator at $130,000 in the 2024 budget, or was the generator in 2023 as well. So the generator was in 2023 at 130,000. And now we have a generator at 900,000. So, and I don't know if they're similar projects, but that's obviously a huge jump from 2023 budget to 2025 budget. And so there just seems to be a gap in the information that we're getting that kind of leaves me a little bit confused.
So the committed projects are sitting in the projected expenditures for the reserve balances. So the stuff that's committed is all sitting in that projected expenditure. So that's where those projects are.
2024 expected?
Yep.
But does that also include the expenditures that did happen?
Yes.
So that would include King from John to Market. That 2 point whatever million is King from John to Market plus King from Market plus whatever else was
Yes.
in the 2024
Yeah.
budget that
Yeah.
is going through.
Is done. Yes. Yep. Yeah. And yes, we do that sort of quarterly reporting on capital, and it has generally just been municipal. I certainly can roll in the water and sewer capital into that quarterly reporting as well. Now, sometimes the projects do change, and so there's the water tower is a good example, because we had a plan, we got different information, and as the engineers or as the consultants look at it, things change. That's what happened with the generator as well. Once they started looking at bases and various other things, these projects do grow. So it has evolved into it. Now, it's not sitting in the projected expenditures. I'm not hanging on to that 130 because Mr. Ming gave me the total project for a new project, and which is then where the 130 kind of just goes back into that infrastructure reserve. And we are almost sort of, starting from scratch because we hadn't got anything more than a little bit of design done on that one. But certainly, we do have these projects growing, but absolutely, we can add to our quarterly reporting updates on the status of the water and sewer capital projects as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Gagné.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So if I can maybe ask Mr. Ming, what did we spend of the 450,000 for the generator for 2024?
We approved the contract with the consultant to do the design work, and about $30,000, and about 50% of that expense was completed in 2024.
Okay.
So we still have the other half to complete the design and do the request for proposal.
Okay, so you said 30, right?
Yes.
So out of the 450, so does that mean the 420 is going back to reserve?
Yep.
Ms. Rada? Yeah, that's correct. Okay. Okay, I got that part. And what about the water tower rehabilitation for Verner? We had budgeted last year for 470.
Yes.
Did we spend that or it's?
A minimal amount, again, with the consulting, work, when it was looked at more, in detail. I'll just talk briefly, the pedestal, the existing pedestal and the proposed glass line tank. There had to be a significant amount of additional work to see if the two are compatible, because the proposed tank was not designed for the existing pedestal. And so there's complications to that. And then when we're looking into the cost of doing that research, we found that we're better off canceling that project and rehabilitate the existing tank until we can get enough funds to build a new tower.
Okay.
So again, the amount that was expensed through that, I don't have it in front of me, but it would be less than $50,000 for work with the consultant.
So where do we see that $800,000 of capital project that wasn't spent this year, like last year? How do we see in the capital budget this year?
So it sits in in your dedicated reserve sheet. So the money that was unspent sits in that ending balance for the reserves. And then,
So
and then, you know,
1.85 for capital, I'm sorry,
sorry,
1.85 for infrastructure, that's the number you're.
yep. And so then the new project is in the 2025 list, but the unspent money is in the ending balance for your reserve.
Okay, and so the 176 is from because we didn't purchase that Mack truck, if I.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah. I don't think it'd be very hard to just put a little explanation with the number to follow that. I'm just curious.
So, sorry, again, which number you,
Mr. Going, you said like that number, you know, so.
That
So the
1.8, how, like, what
What's
adds up to
comprised
1.8? So what Councillor Pellerin is saying is that when you give us a number of 1.8, what does that include? That includes 400 from this project, includes this is being moved to next, so.
and it includes money that wasn't spent 5 years ago, and like I said, I'm not sure, when it's dedicated money that's dedicated to a project, absolutely. If you wanted to see, these are the projects that didn't get completed, that would go more towards your reporting, and at the point where we know the projects aren't gonna go ahead, then it would come with that quarterly reporting. You know, keeping a running list of what's in that 1.8 million, you know, so then next year it's the 470 that didn't get spent from here and the 400 that did get spent from the year, less this that did get spent. I'm not sure that that's a practical way. I think a more practical way is having those updates that come with our capital updates as far as where the projects are and what projects are not moving forward.
Any other questions? Yes, Madam Mayor?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to see on an ongoing basis this included as a capital update, because there's so many of these projects that we're approving as capital investments that we would have no idea, like we can see the things that we can see, like the water main replacements on the street because the street's dug up for 6 weeks. When you talk about lift station radio communications to SCADA, which was considered a work in progress last year. Has that been completed? Was that done? Was that done on budget? You know, when we look at iFix or we look at like some of these things that are invisible to us and invisible to the public, we have no idea whether these capital projects have actually been completed or not. And whether, you know, whether they, like I say, whether they were on budget, whether, you know, like what the total cost was to that. So we don't really, you know, when we come to budget now, outside of us going back and looking at 2024 and 2023, you know, it's just, sometimes it feels like either we're approving things over and over again and either they're not getting done or that we just don't know. And I think it's important that there is kind of that reporting back.
That's an easy one to.
If you want to, just 1 minute, Councillor Gagné, Mr.
No,
Gagné.
I think the points are all well taken, and I think that if we provide a list such as on a go-forward basis on the 2025 capital infrastructure. As Ms. Craddock indicated, that we should be mirroring the Public Works and all of our other departments and providing you a report. And then when the budget deliberations come for next year, then we would have that appendix on the report. You can have that more detailed report. And so I think, I understand, that the evolution of this is, is one where, as I indicated, there'll be more information, especially with the depth and detail of question that is coming from this council. I think those are all valid points. And so what we'll do is make the adjustment. And so for all of these things, assuming that they're approved, we'll have an update as to what's been done, when it's completed, and what's a carryover, and then we'll have that list in the next budget deliberation. These were carried over so that you understand what the report is. So it's all fair.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Gagné?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I see that in the capital budget, the sheet you gave us, the supplemental list, there's still a 300,000 under equipment and fleet. Since we're leasing a vac truck instead, I'm just wondering why that amount is still the same price.
Oh, so there are other things other than the 300,000 addition for 2025. And it's just an allocation between, the overall reserve transfer. But there are things, it's not just fleet, it is equipment. So that is sometimes used for equipment that might be at a facility or for some of those high lift pumps and things like that. So it does cover equipment, not just fleet, which is why there's still an allocation going into that amount. And that's why there was some expenditures in 2024 because it was not just fleet, it was some of the other bits as well that fell into that.
Okay.
It's fleet and equipment, yeah.
In the capital infrastructure, I can't see that that equipment and fleet information of where that 300,000 in capital purchase is actually being pulled out of. I can't see.
Oh, which ones are that I'm considering equipment as opposed to
Yes.
capital? Yep. Give me a second, I'll see if I can pull that fast for you. Otherwise I can get that back to you, but yeah, so that when you look at
Get
the,
back.
Yeah.
Just, I don't see it. So.
yeah,
And I know in Public Works, we actually see like fleet.
Yes.
And we see all the equipment. So.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. No more questions.
Yes, Madam Mayor?
I just have one question in regards to the RV dumping station project relocation to Bridge Street. Again, in 2024, it was estimated at $20,000 and this year's allocation is $50,000. So I just would like to know what the significant difference is between what was budgeted for last year and what's being budgeted for this year.
So for that one, the original estimate, I think, was actually obtained even prior to that. So that's the cost of the unit. So it's been several years. We're still looking into these units. They're quite actually rare to find. I think there's like one manufacturer in Saskatchewan or something like that that makes them. So we're just it might be less than that, but we're anticipating that there will have been some increases since that original estimate was given, and just being prepared for that. We're hoping that will end up coming in under budget, but
Okay.
we're
And
unsure of
the
the
plan
cost.
is definitely to get that this year.
The pipes are already in the ground.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions? All right, I pass it back to you.
Wow. Well,
No.
No?
No, I'd like to pass it back to you. Councillor Torrance. Councillor, you might want to, Councillor, do you want to get more information on that fleet part before, yeah, I don't know where to go from this. Yeah.
so I provided you with an overall budget, as I indicated in my preamble before Christmas. This department is, has a lot of kind of uncontrollables or matters that need to be handled. And I understand in the public, it's frustrating, to see these increases. But this service that we offer the public, it has, you can delay certain aspects of, what you're planning on doing. But there's a certain requirement to protect the health and safety of our residents through clean drinking water and the proper disposal of wastewater. So the increase this year, and, we've looked at a variety of different things, is, 5.6. If you want to go back to the operational line items, they really are the minimum line items that we estimate to operate. It isn't like we could provide some chemicals and not all of the chemicals that are necessary or cheap out on certain chemicals and so forth. And the inspections and the human resources that are required in order to maintain all of our plants and our piping and infrastructure are fairly fixed with respect to what we're requesting. I don't think that there's additional incremental expenditures, Ms. Craddock, or because we already knew that this is a very, difficult time, and that we're, as you can see with the how the dedicated reserves. We have a lot of big projects that are underway, and we, unfortunately, we're going after as much money as we can, but we need to fund them, and we need to have the proper expenditure levels to ensure health and safety. To digress a little bit, we are speaking with, and I shared with Madam Mayor, we do have a meeting with Infrastructure Ontario was granted this today. So we will be speaking about the burner project for water, wastewater, and we're going to be addressing that, and hopefully, there's some positive news that comes into that. But so basically, we've presented what we feel is needed in order to maintain the operations for 2025. But certainly, if you want to revisit some of the line items or question some of the line items, certainly, we want to make sure that you're completely aware of what we're doing in terms of why we're spending it. And to echo some of the councillors, I think that, this year there were a lot of factors that came into play in our budgeting, and sewer and water came in at the end of the year that had some challenges in terms of what we provided you, and we apologize for that. But in future years, we will be mirroring the other budget in terms of how it's displayed, so that you can get more information. But so really, this is the budget. It's 5.6, and if you want to try and reduce it, I'll be happy. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody?
Yeah, I'd like you to continue sharing until we're done.
Anybody has wants to say something about that? But you say
5.64, I believe.
5.6 would be the proposed increase to
Is
the
it,
water and
was it
sewer?
that 5.6?
That's what I had written down from last week. And in water and sewer, I believe the number that you gave us for an equivalent of 1% is $41,550. Is that, am I quoting the numbers correctly? I'd rather Elisa say it. than
Oh, absolutely.
Ms. Craddock say it, because I am just going on what I scribbled on my page last
Oh, me
week, so.
too.
1% is 64,500.
64,000?
Oh, sorry, 65.
Would we know the increase per residence by any chance?
Got here.
Sorry for putting you on the spot there.
No, and I should have had this one. I usually have a tab that's got the rates on it.
Dollars a year.
Yeah. Yeah, so the increase for those that have got water and sewer both is $86 for the year.
Yes, Councilor Gagnon?
Thank you. Just out of curiosity, is it a 50-50 split between water and sewer? Or?
No, sewer is 1.25 times the water rate.
Okay,
Because it's more work to treat the dirty stuff.
good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
Just in general.
Just in general, yeah.
Yeah, so I was just thinking through you, Mr. Chair. I just saw like some items, office supplies to me, every year kind of 20, 30,000, and all of a sudden 52 or whatnot. And then the other one would be the professional fees ranging from 3,000 to this year 25,000. So, you know, if we could even lower those, we're almost at 1% right there, but.
So, you, Mr. Chair, you're possibly right. I'd probably want the indication of what's planned expenditures for those. If there's 52,000 and we're spending on average 31, there's got to be an explanation. Either Ms. Craddock or staff could provide as to why it's higher. Office supplies.
So office supplies includes a lot of things, and I'm just taking a look back here. So there's no change in the actual things that you're probably thinking of as office supplies. 65 to 80. Oh, okay. So there's only a slight increase in the current year, and the slight increase is just to do with licenses and permits. Yeah, and when you look at your 5-year, it is all over, you know. It is certainly below that line, kind of when you look at on average, and the same with the professional fees is again one that is sort of all over when we look at the historical.
So what is planned with professional fees to put a finer point on it for $25,000 this year?
Last year, 2024, I had called upon some consultants for assistance with the treatment issues that we were having at field. And so these were unplanned challenges that we had. And I needed to get some guidance from other professionals on.
Oh, for 2025, you've got, so there's 13,000 projected for 2024. If you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I can put a finer point to it. And you're indicating that you're planning on spending 25,000, which there was 1 year in 2022 where you spent 40, but it has never been that high. And so council's wanting to save a little bit or trying to lower the increase. And so we have to justify why we have 25 there other than a rolling average. Is there, you know, is there a need for that, or can it drop to 15, or can it drop to 20 to be safe? And that's a question for Elise and or Pete.
It's just, again, it's an estimate that was that came up based on past needs, recent needs. So that potentially can become a lot less if I don't rely on consultants for assistance on challenges that come up.
Right.
But if something comes up and we need to look into it, we had problems with manganese in Werner, and we had to do some additional testing to try to find out. I'm getting assistance from consultants to oversee some of the values that we're getting. I'm having trouble with phosphorus removal in field. And again, I'm calling upon some consultants to look upon the results we've been getting to find out why are we having issues. So those are things that come up that that are unexpected, to which I rely on consultants and
But are you planning on doing that because the historical is proving that other than 2022, a safe amount is probably 5 to 10 grand lower.
Extra testing.
yeah, that's not true. Yes, we did the extra testing. Sorry. I'm reminded that we had to do extra testing in Werner last summer. So all those come in play for those.
It's a projection.
So to answer your question, we could bring it down and work with
Your
it.
projection's 13.
The work that goes on at the Verner plant sits in services and rents. That's why when he's talking about the extra work there, the Verner sits, because it's the Aqua contract, all that falls under our Aqua contract. And so again, when I do projections, it's based on what I know and based on historical. But absolutely, when you look at historical, there probably is room to come down there. When I look at the historical, that for everything that kind of rolls up into office supplies, which is our computers, our advertising, everything, where we seem to be underspending fairly consistently is actually in our software and our computer maintenance. So again, it's fairly consistently those lines, and we are getting some wind on postage now to having folks online too, but mostly it's in the IT area that sits there. So certainly we can take a look, kind of based on historical. I'm not seeing anything that looks that we can't relook at those lines.
Yes, Madam Mayor?
Just in regards to software and technology, that's actually included in capital on this budget.
There's stuff that fits into, so there is capital stuff and there is operating as well. Yeah.
Because you have computers, which
Yeah.
would be a depreciating asset
Yes.
because they're longer term.
Yeah.
And then licensing, so, okay.
So
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Chair.
Jay, yes, Mr. Barrow?
just to put a finer point on it, council, gets 5.6, and I'm not, I was part of the process, so that's great. Questions being asked because I get the sense that if there's anything we can do to lower that 5.6 to a number, and I guess it would be our responsibility to defend the 52 or the 25. And if we are saying, well, we're based on historical, but we're planning on doing something specifically, that will cost us 52. Otherwise, we can drop it to 40. And to be safe, no offense, Councillor Revar, but I would careful on chopping too much and then being, underfunded. And then looking at, so there might be 15,000 here that I'd be, that we can potentially live within our means.
Councilor Rivard hasn't said anything.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
Good, Councillor Jean?
Thank you through. Yeah, I understand. The point I was kind of making was just to see if there are some savings. To me, it seems, I don't know. We also have the education one. We're sitting at 17,000, and last year doubled, and we remain at that double amount again this year, right? So when we start hitting these numbers that just keep increasing at this rate, I don't know if it's sustainable, right? Like we're, I think we also have a little bit of a requirement here to try and not see increases like this all the time for these numbers that may not actually be required in some of these cases. It's confusing to me when I look at these numbers and I'm seeing these jumps and these kind of, you see from education at 17, 15, 17, 5, 20, then the past 2 years, 35. So it's just, when you start seeing all these numbers like this, it seems like if you take 10 here, 10 here, 10 there, next thing you know, we're already at only 4.5% or something, right? Because 1% is only $64,000 really. So it's just a point I'd like to bring out there, but I don't necessarily have the answers to all of this because I understand that we can't be cutting everything and be underfunded, but some of this just kind of comes up as a little confusing, I guess. The utilities and communications would be another, where you look at historicals and it just seems to jump a little bit quickly, but back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jean. Oh,
I will just address a couple of the historical questions there. So just again, pointing out in 2020 and 2021, the training lines suffered a lot because of COVID. and we weren't able to get our folks. Now, you know, since the plan going forward is certainly for Mr. Ming to discuss. I know that we are sort of highly legislated and our folks all have to do X number of hours in order to maintain their licenses. But I will talk that the 2021 and 2020 COVID again sort of played a part in the training that was available even for us. The utilities is one that has been kind of interesting, and the same thing happened actually on the municipal side, is that you know, we had much higher hydro rates back in the day, and then COVID we actually saw some hydro rate savings during COVID, and then at our facilities we actually have been able to get into some more efficient processes, which have given us some hydro savings over the years, and we finally have got that spot where we're going to kind of look at where we're sitting now. We're kind of caught up to budget again, right? So then I'm using just sort of I think a 4% assumption over actuals on our hydro and gas costs. So, it has been, we've been able to have some advantages sort of early on compared to actually where we were prior to 2020, but we sort of have caught up with those savings that we had over the last few years in hydro, and we're now looking at where we are with it. The wastewater roof that's on your capital also impacts our utility costs, because we've had to do different things with our gas costs related to the fact that we've had this problem that we've been sort of working around and how we've done. But really the utilities, we've just sort of caught up with where we were. We certainly have had savings in prior years because of efficiencies, but we've just sort of caught back up to the point where that's where we are now. Both plants are hydro intensive, well, worse than ice plants, but yeah, they are hydro intensive operations.
Thank you, Ms. Gowda. Yes, Madam Mayor.
I just have one question on the revenue side of it. So the projection for 2024 is at 6.4948 million. But the budget for 2025 is actually less than what the projection for 2024. And you would assume that there will be a certain number of new building starts or new homes going on to the system. So one would expect that the revenues to at least be stable with the projected 2024. So there's $32,000 difference there between your projection and the projection for 2025 is less than or the budget for 2025 is less than the projection of 2024.
And so
I know you're being conservative.
I am. And Mr. Barrow had the same conversation with me as we were getting it together. He's going, can we push this a little bit more? So unlike in taxes where we have got supplemental billings and I got really clear new assessment and things like that, we absolutely do have some new homes that come on, and we can take a look at number of accounts, which is why there's sort of just this $5,000 increase of budgeted amount over that. Where we have the most fluctuation in our actuals tends to come from, or doesn't, it comes from our metered accounts. And so we have a handful of accounts that are metered. Most of them are small ones. We've got two big metered accounts, being the hospital and the chateau. And we don't have enough where we have consistently high consumption that I'm going to say, oh yeah, we're really under budgeting consumption here, because their consumption is so up and down. And so in the past, we actually used to go and kind of grab some of this, and we got really burned a few times. So yes, I am being conservative. If council wishes to, us to be a little less conservative on what we think we're going to get on our metered accounts, understand there's a risk of where we're going to be at the year end, because there doesn't seem to be a really clear line in consumption at both the hospital and the chateau. You think they would be, but they are such big accounts as far as meters that they can sway a lot in things, which means they can also sway us down a lot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you were speaking, I was thinking the 900,000 for the generator also included bringing in the natural gas, right, for the heating, which would cost around $150, you said. I was just thinking, I've seen that au Chateau and the Gutco, they're, and all over, the heat pumps are really in now. It's cheap to run. And you look at that aspect of installing heat pump for,
It's something we can look at when we get to that point.
because natural gas, I think it's like in Quebec, some places, it's now illegal to heat your house, new houses on natural gas. So I don't know, I think heat pump, it's something to look at. It's cheap to install. There's no 150,000 to bring the line in.
Well, the gas still needs to be there for the generator.
It would be a natural gas generator.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. Like it could be a diesel generator. How often do you use that generator? Just something to think
No,
about.
well, I think the problem is that if there is a sustained power outage, then fuel stations go down. So how much diesel do you have to have on hand? And I guess the Verner Co-op, but I think it's a stability of supply. So that's the one facility that if there were no power for 3 weeks, we still need clean water to get to our am I reading this
Correct.
situation correctly? Is that using diesel or a gas generator, you then run into supply issues if there were a long-term sustained power outage. But yeah, I understand.
Okay, I'm here.
I'll ask a question according to that. On the $900,000 for the generator upgrade project, is it expected that the entirety of that project would be completed within the 2025 year? Or is there a way to split some of that cost where we, say defer for next year's budget, because that's a huge expense. And, if it's not expected that the entire project would be completed, we're budgeting and charging this year for something that is not going to happen until 2026 or later. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, Greta.
So actually, it goes back to that same conversation we've had before about the only thing that impacts the budget is the transfers to reserve. And there's actually not an increase in the transfers to reserve other than the change from loan payment to reserve. So there's not new money going into the transfer to reserve. So even if you were splitting projects or deferring projects, it doesn't roll back to a savings unless you're going to start to claw back how much you have been transferring to reserves. And I wouldn't suggest that as a financial plan. So again, it's the transfer to reserve is the portion that hits the rate payer, that part, and then how the money is used from reserve or sits in reserve is where the capital sits. So deferring the projects isn't taking more or less from the rate payer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, sir, Mr. Babu.
Yeah, so the other thing I would look at is, and again, we're remiss because we should look at it, but I'm looking at professional fees and I'm looking at office supplies, but then I'm also looking at materials and supplies where we've overspent. And then I'm also looking at other, insurance, we're budgeting properly, and contractors are is been reduced in that. If you look at the bottom line, you're looking at the total expenditures with respect to the projections are very close to what was budgeted. In fact, I think that it looks like it's actually a little higher in terms of what's projected than what was budgeted. So if you look at the overall, it kind of gives us the ability to let you know that we're not, if you look at one line item, we're not needing it, but then if we don't have it, you're going to be having a problem in other line items as well. So sometimes we've increased conservatively, hoping that we can hold within it. But if you look at the 211 under materials and supplies, we didn't go to 211, we went to 195. So if we start looking at everything as a line item and not as a macro of what we need to operate, I just caution council that we are doing the best estimates kind of thing. But certainly we can reduce professional fees and we can reduce others, but we do run a risk by not having that money of, being in a deficit next year as well. So. Just letting you know.
Okay. Can we time out? We are past our break, break to our procedural bylaw. And we can return to the discussion when we return from break. So I would take a mover and second for a 10-minute recess. Councillor Gagne, Councillor St. Louis.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor St. Louis at approximately 8:05 p.m. A motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess.
All in favor? Carried. Staff put up their hands too. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're returning, we are in the middle of our water and wastewater budget discussion, and I'll pass the floor back to Chair Councillor Pedro.
Madam Mayor, before I ask show of hands if everybody's comfortable with that number, any other questions in general? Yes, Councillor.
I had one more question. The former loan that we have, I see that the 120,000 is kept in the current budget.
We have 3 loans.
Yeah, but there's a transfer from former loans of 120,000. Does that need to be transferred? Or what's the reason of keeping that 120 there?
Where are you looking at the 120?
The transfer to reserve?
Oh, yeah, so that, between the loan principal and the loan interest, those numbers both decrease in 2025. And so, you know, again, it was one of these sort of discussions that happened with councils years ago, that as the loans paid off, the money was going to get put into reserve so that we could use it for future capital. It was just rather than letting it go back into operating, it was money that was used for capital that we're going to put back into capital. That was the reason why it's now in the transfer to reserve.
Okay, but if we wanted to, we could remove that and it would.
It will make a problem with your projects. We're gonna have to do some editing on that capital list, because if you take that 120 out, we can't do that capital list. We'd have to go back and take a look at that. But certainly, yeah, council can, you know, keep it in operating if they wanted to do that.
Okay, because I just want to is that amount, because we're finishing up a loan this
Yes.
year? Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you, Mr.
Yep.
Chair.
Councillor Gagné. Anyone else? Okay.
Oh, sorry, I just
Madam Mayor?
want to be clear. So last year's transfer to reserve was 930, no, sorry, 1.23 million.
Yep.
Okay, and then this year, we're looking at 135, so an increase of $120,000 to our contribution to reserve. Okay, I will say, from the perspective of, you know, we do need to understand that as a municipality, we have aging infrastructure. And so we need to continue to boost our investment into capital projects, I think is very important. Like, I don't think that is a huge increase in our, you know, when we say transfer to reserve, it's actually we're putting that money aside to fund capital projects, and we have great need for capital project there. So I just wanted to be clear on what the actual increase is, which is just $120,000 more than we put in for our capital. And I think it is important that we keep increasing that number so that we can meet future needs of the municipality. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, last call. By a show of hands, who's comfortable with the 5.6%? It's not. So what?
No, that's fine.
That is fine.
You redo it again.
Hey, sorry. Oh, I forgot the. Okay.
Sure.
Sorry, show of hands again, who's comfortable with the 5.6%? Yeah, okay, thank you. I forgot the people away. Thank you. Back to Madam Mayor.
Okay, so there was 5, Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. Good, thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is 6.2 for general government. 6.2.1 at Demers Riverfront lands appraisal update. And For Mr. Barbo, I will pass that to Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a follow-up from a discussion that was held earlier in the fall, where it was determined that council agreed that they would provide some lot additions to individuals on Riverfront. And I did receive, I think, 7, for some reason my memo is not in here, I don't know where it went. But I did receive 7 expressions of interest on the Riverfront side. In addition, I did obtain an appraisal from Appraisals North, and I provided you with the summary sheet as well as the sheet which outlines how the calculation for the lot additions should be, or what the recommendation is for the calculations on the lot additions. So in summary, they are recommending that the appraised price of the property minimum set at $175,000. And there was a note that they didn't believe that there would be any significant increase or decrease in the overall value by providing the lot additions, which are suggested to be at, I believe it's $6 per square foot.
Thank you. Mr. Barbo?
I think I'd be remiss. There has been an individual as well, and I just want to put it on the record that asked for an addition on the Demers side. And he approached Councillor St. Louis and has approached myself as well, and indicated that he had made this request in previous times as well. The response that was provided to him was that council and had indicated that we were not entertaining on that side for design reasons and other reasons, if I'm not mistaken. But that there is an expression of interest for a lot addition on the Demers side. If council wants to entertain that, that would be a variation from the direction we had, but I have to provide that to represent, and Mr. St. Louis would probably have jumped in as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Barbo. Yes, I had an individual that approached me on numerous occasions, and he actually is willing to purchase wherever the road allotment does go by, in the middle of that section, he is actually willing to purchase up to that road, and not just, on the Riverfront side, I believe we were selling, I think it's 60 feet, and he's willing to go, if it's 100 or whatever that we would decide, so that it's not just half a lot or whatnot, he's willing to do so. I did walk the back of, on several occasions, the back of that, in that area. He's maintained that area very, very well. He has not added anything to it. He has not used it for his benefit at all. However, he has been maintaining it extremely well. And I would support that one. That's the only individual that's approached me to purchase that on that side of Demers. So
through you again, Madam Mayor, the issue is whether he purchases it off of us or whether he purchases it off of the successful bidder. One half dozen of the other. If the bidder of the subdivision wishes to sell it, they can do it at that point. I don't know. Yeah.
I just, to you, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to point out that the representative drawing that I provided, we haven't any idea what the design of someone who's bought it. That's just a maybe kind of. So that's just the point I wanted to make.
If I may add, Madam Mayor, sorry, just to follow up. He's also made it known to myself that because at the time there was apparently a drainage ditch that was going through that area, he's willing to put a culvert as per our municipality's guidelines to ensure that everything is done up to code, so that if he is able to obtain and purchase it, he will do whatever he needs to do if there actually is a drainage ditch. But when I did go back there, the drainage ditch, I believe that we have discussed is further down. And there is only just a minor swale, if you will. But if he requires to put a culvert, he's willing to do so.
So I guess what I'm seeking first of all,
Thank you very much.
is council comfortable with a tender for, once we iron out this one area, is council comfortable with putting out a tender for the lands, less the lot additions that have been expressed at $175,000?
Okay, Councillor Pelham?
Okay, just so I'm clear, I didn't spend too much time on it. So the sale price we're looking at ranges from 62 to 100,000 per lot addition.
No, per lot. Those are comparative prices for lots available for sale that are comparable to the site characteristics here. So those are full building lots, and what they've done is then done the division of the site area divided by the sale price equals the sale price per square foot. So that's just a kind of a comparable, historical comparables for kind of serviced, well, not, serviced lots within.
So what would be the estimate on the
So
additions that we
the
see?
estimate on the lot additions would be $6 and something. Like I said, I had a memo that went with this. I don't know where it went. In any event, they would come out to about between $15,000 and $18,000 per lot addition, which is fairly almost right in line with what we paid for the last one, or got for the last one.
Okay, and how many, let's say just for the sake of it, if you go around the whole,
There's 7
There's
expressions
7
of
that-
interest.
that have, there are 7 people on Riverfront
yeah,
that have expressed interest.
for now.
No,
I
but
s-
that's closed.
They were sent out a letter with a deadline. After that, they could buy from whoever
They could
buys
buy
it,
full lots or they could buy
whatever.
But I'm thinking like, so they estimate the whole land at 175,000. Is there more money to buy, if everybody was willing to buy a lot addition?
How would you make them?
What do you mean?
You can't compel people to buy something.
No, but if there's no rush to sell that land right now.
Mr. Bravo?
So to recap, council's direction and even during budget process was to look at what we can do in terms of finding land or buildings or uses that were surplus to our needs so that we can then redirect our funds. So to your point, I think that we've been bringing things forward to you on that grounds, and that's the grounds that we've been taking. The second point is one possibly of a personal philosophical point, but it is one that has been raised, with the entire Roy Street and all of that. It used to be a municipal subdivision, and it kind of raised the ire of developers where we're getting into the development business if we start dividing and doing things that developers should rightly be doing themselves. We have land and we have people that are in the business of development and construction. And so if council wants to get into that, that's fine. But philosophically, is that are we into the municipal residential subdivision business or whatever? So yeah, if we got into that and we divided it in that, we can probably make a lot more money for sure. But is that really the role? And that's a council policy philosophical decision. So, but the reason this is before you is we brought it forward. We were tasked, did we declare surplus? I don't remember.
No, I
don't
think we were
believe so.
waiting
So
till we
we're waiting
wanted
for
to,
this.
because we have to sort out the lot.
Yeah, and so really, we're at the point where, I think it was Councillor Gagnon, put you on the spot, but you're saying we need to start bringing these things forward. We need to start looking at where we want to be in the next few years, everywhere, so that we can reconsolidate for the new West Nipissing moving forward. And this is one of these things that we've been sitting on a plot of land that has a value, and that value then, if it was purchased by a developer, will then be creating development, creating residential lots, and creating new assessment in an area. So
Oh, I'm putting my hand up, but I'm chairing. There's other questions. Councillor Perrin, please.
I'm not sure if I heard correctly. Mrs. Ducharme, did you say that there is interest from developers? Or were you referring to interest by landowners to?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no developer has expressed an interest. Okay. Do we have an idea of if we were to sell it for 175,000, and a developer did develop it, do we have any idea what the annual tax income could be? Maybe I should have submitted that question last week.
That would be a question for the treasurer.
well,
Based-
how many lots
I
did you?
think we
bought it?
estimated 32.
Yeah, I think initially I'd estimated it could accommodate up to 30 lots.
Times about 4,000.
That's considerable. If there's any chance that that a developer would be interested, I think that should be our priority.
Councillor St. Louis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, so I understand what Councillor Perrin was saying. However, if we were to hold on to it, people will not purchase it. They won't purchase those little section because they're using them now and they're not purchasing them. So if we decide to sell, and the understanding for them is they've shown interest, and once they know that we're going to sell, then they'll purchase them, or not, right? Or they might purchase them off the developer or whatnot. But as long as we hold on to them, they're just gonna continue using it, right? So I think that's why. To go back to the first point, I think we should definitely consider, well, there are some on the, on Riverfront side and one on Demers that have shown interest. And I would hope that we honor the one on Demers just like we would for the one on Riverfront. And I think after that, in my opinion, is just to get rid of it.
Where's the third one? Thank you. Sorry, my question that I was asking quietly was that I could see the two lot additions that have already been completed. Do you remember offhand the sale prices of those?
The one that was done in 2000, and I think it was 15 or 16, was $10,000. The last
Okay.
one was $15,000.
And we're estimating 18?
Between 15 and 18, depending on the exact square footage.
Okay. Councillor Bonnie?
I think, Madam Mayor, I find that the price for the parcels, for the simple reason that like, if the developer does cut 32 lots or even 30 lots, like
$3 million.
like at 10 grand a lot even, it's,
Um,
like, I do understand he needs to put infrastructure and all of that, I do get that, but I just find it, so even if it's estimated at 175, it doesn't mean we can say we want $300,000 for the free, at a minimum bid, right?
Council can set the minimum bid at whatever it wants.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Pellerin?
Maybe we did know this, but everybody was advised around both streets? Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So for the discussion, I would like to just deal with one point at a time. And the first point was, that was brought up, was the property owner on Demers that is interested. And I'd like to get council direction whether we would be interested in looking at that. I think the only caution would be is if we open it up for one, then we almost have to open up the entire process all over again for all of Demers. Like we can't, I wouldn't want to treat one person differently. Councillor St. Louis.
So, and I understand what you're saying, Madam Mayor, but keep in mind that this individual has been after this parcel for probably since 2012 or 15 is what he's told me. He's shown, or
But there are
uncertain.
others on
On
Demers who
Demers?
have asked over time.
Okay, well, those I don't know, those have never approached me, but this individual has approached me on numerous occasions. So at least there is that, not saying the grandfather clause, but in that sense, right?
So I just want to see whether we're interested in looking at that by a show of hands of who would be. I don't even know how to phrase that, but it was brought up, didn't it? Counselor, whoa, Mr. Barbo, I've done that 3 times today.
Yeah, I guess the decisions are, and I don't know, and some said, what's the rush, whatever, and that is true. If council wishes to delay this and ask others on Demers whether it's feasible and whether they wish to, with a deadline, we can bring that back to council as well. I don't know and then that would change the appraisal. But as long as you know that would change the appraisal, yeah.
The people that are interested right now, do they know the price? They have the price they're gonna pay?
If they looked at the agenda, but they know what the others have paid, and it's in what has been estimated is roughly the same as what the last guy paid.
So we didn't get them.
No, I
That
didn't.
has to be set by council.
And at that price, if they decide to go, they pay for everything, surveyors, lawyers.
The question I was going to ask, because this is going to be a survey, a large survey, for up to 7 lots, would the municipality pay for the survey and then distribute it pro rata over the cost over each sale as well? Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Gagne.
Did we contact all the landowners on Demers and on Riverfront, or just on Riverfront?
All landowners on Demers were notified of council's decision not to entertain lot additions on Demers.
Oh, okay.
And that was a council
Yeah.
direction. So
Yeah.
council had already previously directed. And this person that I'm talking about is indicating that, I still want to buy some, and I had my request in earlier direction. So I'm not suggesting what council should do, I'm just representing the person with respect to what he said, that's all. And if council wishes to entertain it or stick to their original direction, then we would just notify the individual that council does not wish to entertain on the Demers side.
So I think that's how I'll phrase it. Sorry, Councilor.
I just want to reiterate that if we sell lot additions, we just risk devaluing the potential income in the long term. And maybe even make the site a little bit less desirable to a developer. And I agree with what Mr. Barbeau said earlier. We're not in the business of developing land or selling lots. What we should be looking at is maximizing the long-term benefit of this property for the taxpayer. Not because for every lot addition, that's probably going to be kept without, it's not going to bring much more in tax revenue. Certainly not as much as a lot that would have a house on it. So I think we really have to keep that in mind before we decide to do further lot additions on, especially on Demers.
Councilor Rivard.
Thank you, through you. Yeah, and I remember the last discussion we had, the reason why we had said Riverfront to be willing there is because it's still allowed for a large enough building lot, both sides of, if somebody were to buy it, bring in infrastructure, you'd have both sides of the road where you could put homes. So it does make it much less desirable, I think, if there's one less lot for a developer, because now if you're bringing in your water sewer and you only have 29 instead of 28 or whatnot, it changes the price for everything. So I do agree with what the Councillor Farhan is saying.
So what I'd like to see now is just a show of hands of members of council that would like to maintain the original decision to whatever, restrict any lot additions on the Damaris side. So I would see a short. Okay, so that passes, or that's the direction there. The second piece is we need council direction if we wish to proceed with the 7 lot additions that have been indicated by Madam Clerk. They are shown on your map in the gray squares, the property owners that have indicated interest. I guess at the $6 per square foot plus surveying, plus costs, lawyers, so their cost would be they would pay the amount for the land based on the square footage. Is everybody comfortable with $6 a square foot, first of all? If we were to proceed with that. Councillor Pellerin?
How big is La Fatani with a square feet, in feet?
They're 50 by 60.
That's a big chunk. I think 15 to 18,000 is cheap. Should be minimum 20.
It's consistent with past sales.
Okay, did I see your hand up, Councillor Ristol?
No, I thought you were going to vote, so I had my fast voting hand up
You
again.
were fast voting. You know, I'd rather see 7, but you know, that's just maximizing the value to the taxpayer. Okay, so show of hands, comfortable at $6 per square foot as indicated in the appraisal.
Sorry,
Sorry,
what's the total?
but it's $6 a square foot
Yeah, but
because
they're
some
all
of
the
them.
same size. 18? Thank you. Yeah.
Well, if there was one that was is there one that's smaller? You said
No.
15 to 18.
They're, each of the lots to which they're attached
Yes.
are a little bit different in width. So
Okay.
there will be minimal width differences. The depth will be consistent.
Yes. Yes, please.
Yes.
So approximately 18,000 per lot
That's correct.
addition. Okay, so is that, Councillor Gandhi?
Nope, I'm voting.
Okay, is everybody comfortable at the $6 per square foot as indicated? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and then the next question is, the 7 that have been proposed, council is okay to proceed, let Madam Clerk proceed with whatever needs to be done to survey the properties, et cetera, and indicating that the costs will be borne by a split of those 7 lots.
And further, would council want to bring back at the next meeting a resolution to actually declare the land surplus so I can proceed forward?
Yes, okay. So 7 lot additions, costs being assumed by the property owners. A show of hands, please. Okay, and then council's in favor of declaring the land surplus, which Madam Clerk needs before we can start with the surveying and disposition of the property. Show of hands, please. There we go.
And minimum on the balance. Do we want to come back?
Can we
after
declare,
complete the-
can we declare the surplus? Can we do sorry, my preference would be to have it declared surplus, do the lot additions and get it all sorted out and come back to council once that main piece of property is ready to be sold and would that be fair, and discuss a minimum lot price, minimum reserve on that land at that time?
Yep.
Councillor Bonnier?
Can I just ask a question, Madam Mayor?
Yes, of course.
So the remaining lot in the estimate, is that calculated at $6 per square feet for the balance of the property?
The balance of the property is based, it's quite a large report. It's based on a variety of things, with square footage being one of them. But the overall price arrived at by the appraiser was $175,000. But there's a lot more detail to the.
Okay, so it's not a straight cut $6
No,
per
no,
square feet
it's,
for the remaining?
no, it has to do with the topography. It has to do with the site specifics of the whole property.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So declare surplus, yes. Which members of council would be in favor of having this discussion on accepting the minimum bid price of 175,000? Okay.
Discussion?
Do you want to discuss it later on? Okay, so let's,
Do the sales and come
okay,
back.
do the sales and come back with the remainder of the property and we can have that discussion at that time.
Thank you.
Okay, have everything you need?
I do, thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. The next item is 6.2.2, which is the Municipal Accountability Act. This is a letter received from the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Paul Calandra. There's been quite a bit of talk in regards to this topic over the last couple of years. The letter's included in your packages. It is for information only. There may be consultation sessions arranged by the ministry in the coming months. As and when that information is received, it will be forwarded to you. And if any of you choose to participate in those, you would be welcome. Does anybody have questions or comments about the letter? Thank you, Councillor Ferrer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think these changes I know are long overdue, and I when I went to AMO conference this summer, I think some of my colleagues also were in the hall when we heard some really disturbing stories from other mayors and councillors of serious code of conduct breaches. I think the one thing here that what I see, and I think a lot of people are commenting on, is that they're not the changes don't go far enough, and one of the bar for disqualification is extremely high. So it needs the unanimous consent of the entire rest of council. And so if, I know the letter asks for feedback, is there going to be an opportunity for council to provide feedback to the minister? Because I think that's what the letter is asking. And if we are to give feedback, I would propose that we consider giving that feedback. That the bar is too high.
Yeah. What I would suggest is that maybe we, both you and I will be attending Roma next week along with some other members. And there would very well maybe some discussions there or some sessions there. I wouldn't be surprised to see the minister address it, and it'll be interesting just to hear some of that feedback, from a larger provincial level. And perhaps what we can do is bring this back to council to have that discussion and draft a letter, with how we feel about it in total. A lot of times they will do online consultations or other kinds of consultations. We may get more information about what that consultation will look like at Roma on the 18th. But could we schedule to bring this letter back on the second general government vote or just the first meeting of the month? I'm sorry.
So it's usually the first, but if there's any time-sensitive issues, we can certainly bring it back.
Yeah.
The letter speaks about a 60-day period on the registry as well. So that would put you to February 12th.
Okay.
So somewhere before that, you need to put your comments in.
Okay. So, and our first meeting of February is
The 4th, I believe.
that's a little short notice first now, please.
No.
If council were to give direction at the fourth meeting to draft a letter or whatever.
No, we
We
type
can
fast.
Okay. So can we bring that back on the first meeting of February? And that way we can just get a better idea of what the temperature is and get a little bit more information about some of the proposals. Obviously, this is very short form of what's going to be in this act. And so there may be more information and we can get a full copy of the legislation as well. That'd be great. So thank you for those comments, Councillor Fredden. Anybody else have questions or comments in regards to this letter? Okay, well, I'm interested in hearing more as well, and we'll bring it back on the 7th for further discussion. And I'll look for some resources in the meantime, just to share with you all, to do a little reading about what the legislation might look like. Thank you. Okay, next item. Delegation 6.2.3, the delegation of duties and powers to administration. So we had talked about this at it had been brought forward at a previous meeting, and there wasn't a whole lot of discussion, and I did more thorough reading on it afterwards, and I did come up with just some questions on various items. And I don't, because I'm the one who brought it back, if you all wouldn't mind, I would start with some of the items that I had marked. I don't know if all the other members of council have had an opportunity to read through in detail. So I'm going to just start on the first page of the proposal. And we had issue proclamation requests, and generally that's something that's done by mayor and council as a resolution. And the reason for putting that on was at times.
Periodically,
Yes, please.
periodically we receive them, sometimes 3 days before the event is to take place, and there's no council meeting in the intervening, but they really need it or they really want it. We wouldn't bring things that would normally come to council. It's just a kind of an emergency measure for people who sometimes wait to the last minute.
Okay, and the proclamations are generic generally, like, okay.
You wouldn't step out on a proclamation that might impact the image or reputation of the
It would be like
organization.
the regular ones, the ones we do
Declare
regularly,
this.
they may have not submitted.
Okay. Okay, just because I don't want you to have to speak for us or
Oh,
be
no.
put in
I
the
don't want.
position. Councillor Fedai.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if it would be appropriate maybe to include the mayor as a delegate, because at least then there, for example, we're looking at the,
She is.
it says clerk or delegate,
It says mayor
or designate. Am I looking at?
No, that's the second one. The first one is mayor or.
I was looking at events
Proclamation.
on municipal property as
No.
significant.
We're not there.
Oh, okay,
This is the
sorry.
very
Okay, I
first
was
one.
looking
This
at
is
the
the
wrong one.
proclamation. And I wouldn't want to speak for you guys unless I guess it was something very like vanilla.
I think only the mayor
Yeah.
should proclaim, not the clerk.
For clarity, can she proclaim outside of the council meeting if there's time constraints?
That's the.
Okay, no, that's,
the
I just
whole
want that
change-
clarity.
The whole change
Yep.
is it should be a
Take
political
me out.
proclamation,
I'm
not
out.
not administrative.
That's not what I was going for, but okay. So yeah,
Just to
that's
help you out.
yeah. Second question I had was about amending the records retention period. That is already in a bylaw. Like, so it says Director of Corporate Services. So the records retention period is set by policy
Yeah, yes, or it's actually, it's in the bylaw.
that you can change. It like, this is, so is what you're asking is for the, oh, sorry, the third item.
Okay,
Amend records retention periods. So the records retention periods are set by policy. And so what you're asking for here is for a staff to make a unilateral decision to change that period
I
of
think
time?
the conversation and just was that you and I had talked about the fact that there may be some inconsistencies between legislative retention periods and what our bylaw says. And in the event that there was an inconsistency, that you could abide by the upper level of government. That was where we were looking at that.
Our bylaw does need to come back, but I think what Madam Clerk is saying is that, yeah, if the legislation, so I have a record retention policy that says right now 7 years, but if CRA changes their legislation so that it becomes 9 years, that I would be able to amend that until such time as we come back, that I'm not destroying things ahead of time.
Okay, so could the wording on that be changed so that it says to match provincial legislation or something? Because the way it reads right now is that you could one day wake up and say, you know what, 7 years is too long. I think that we should say 3 weeks. And because it also caused the discussion of corporate.
So to maintain consistency with federal and provincial
Federal or
legislation.
provincial
Yep.
legislation. Because it, you know, like I say, it reads like.
Yeah.
Decide that. I know. Okay, thank you. Clerk or designate issue, sorry, 1, 2. I wish I had page numbers for you. Same page. Issue letters designating events on municipal property as municipally significant. And then, there's one on the following page about the ACGO liquor license applications for deeming events municipally significant. And so what's the purpose of that?
Same thing. Periodically, the municipality has events that require, for example, the field carnival, where they get a liquor license, but it's on our land,
Okay,
and they need that letter.
okay. Okay, I don't necessarily have a problem with that. Is it- So right now, we
Just
don't,
routine.
right now, in order to declare it significant, it would have to come to council. And so if they wait till 10 days before, they may not have a council meeting and therefore may not be able to get the letter.
It's more to do with their liquor license, not the event itself. It's the
Okay.
timelines on their license. Sometimes,
Okay,
and those liquor licenses can be sticky to get, so they try to go with,
okay, thank you.
it doesn't happen very
Yeah,
often.
And we're not providing any new event that comes on our property
Mhm.
without council.
No.
This
So
is
these
just
are
a-
Yes.
especially for.
And I can change that to say, established
Yeah,
events.
that would be good. Thank you.
Okay.
And further down that page, there's a couple of points. I'm sorry for being sticky on this stuff, but about insurance for settlement or compromise claim action application. And then on the second one, it says insurance settlements of small insurance claims, authority to handle claims of amounts less than 25,000 with an annual report to council if any claims are approved. Does council currently get a report on claims approved under 25,000?
We haven't.
Okay. So right now, what happens for claims under 25,000? It's just, it's done, but there's not actually a policy that, like, it's not enshrined in policy. It's just the way it's been done.
Right.
Okay. So with this bylaw, would then an annual report in the future be provided to council that showed insurance claims? What happens to insurance claims over 25,000?
So,
Sure, stakeholder.
Okay, so under 25,000, it would be paid out of the municipal coffers because it's not worth going through insurance, kind of like.
there's two parts of things. So, if we've got a lawsuit against us, we hand it off to the insurer.
Mhm.
We have to pay up to our deductible on it. But sometimes they have, so if we've got a settlement where there's going to be a large settlement because we've got a significant liability, we bring those to council. We discuss what's going on. But sometimes we have just where the insurer is asking for just sort of a nuisance settlement on something, and it's just a small amount just to make the claim end up. And it's always on recommendation of the lawyers assigned by the insurer. This is, it's always, we're just following their advice on things.
So we've been, for the last 25 years, historically handling them that way. And what we have not ever done, which is a point that would now be raised, would be to provide you with reports on what we do. What we do with respect to how we handle these claims. We get slip and falls, nuisance settlements and that kind of thing. And we handle that operationally all the time, less so than in the past, but we handle the risk management internally.
Sorry, I'm looking for a little support from the other members here because I'm not sure what I'm asking. It's just that I have questions about these because I don't understand, what authority is already there and, like what best practices are on some of this stuff. So it's just.
So typically insurance and these type of
Yeah.
things, and I think it's in my job description, but typically those are handled risk management and handling insurance and risk minimization and dealing with the legal aspects of the municipality are handled by myself and delegated also
Mhm.
with the Director of Corporate Services. So historically, we've always been handling that. This is formalizing this and
Okay.
also adding the additional caveat that those reports would be coming to you. But we do have experience and expertise in whether we should be settling, what the whether we're creating a precedent on people now saying, okay, everybody, let's go after it. So we handle that at a risk management perspective, which is an operational perspective. So we're basically saying we're formalizing the process.
Okay, and so there is something here, obviously, that says that reports to council would come for claims less than 25,000. What happens with claims over 25,000? That information does not.
Claims over
currently come.
25,000 basically are covered by our insurer, and so
Okay.
we lose that ability to handle that.
Okay,
So anything over $25,000 goes to the risk of that is to the insurer, not to the municipality. So they take over that risk. That's why we have insurance.
and from a kind of risk management standpoint, how is that information tracked or used to try to kind of improve our performance, right? Do you keep track of, well, this year we had 16 lawsuits and total settlement value on those? Because that impacts our insurance rates, I'm sure, right?
We have that as a report. We don't have that many.
Okay,
But, so it isn't that significant,
Okay.
but we also have our auditors who actually issue and ask for letters from legal and all of that with the risk, and that is part of the audit process as well.
okay, so if this report were to start coming to council, would it be early in the year you would report on the past fiscal year?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, could there be a timeline added to
We
the
should create a
reporting?
policy.
Okay.
Mhm.
Not go on somebody's list of things to do. I know, I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
absolutely. We'll bring
You know.
forth a policy on reporting for claims
Okay.
and the periodic time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Pellerin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam. Yeah, it'd be nice to see this in all claims. Even if it's over 25,000 or whatever, then we have an idea. We should know.
Thank you. Okay, on the second page of the document, signing authority for banking services, that's already done like that, so that's just being included
Yeah,
overall.
As I said, anything that has an existing bylaw
Okay.
number or policy number in the right-hand column, this is just putting it into a compilation.
Okay. The sign agreements of purchase and sale for disposition or acquisition of municipal lands right now, do I not sign?
You sign the final paperwork. I
Okay,
typically sign the actual agreements
the offers
Yeah.
and
at the
whatever.
front end.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, is that I didn't understand. Right now, I do have to come in and sign when
You
we-
sign the actual final stuff.
Okay, thank you. Same page, that's fine. You answered that one already. Third page of the document, last, no, purchase or disposition of goods or services, so that's according to the purchasing bylaw?
Yep.
So that, like we declare items surplus over a certain value, is that correct?
I'll direct that to Director.
So declaring an item surplus, does come to council and then is disposed of after that, yeah.
Okay, on the fourth page, which is the human resources section. Right now, sorry, for contracts of employment, what happens right now? Because I guess when I read this, my first concern was that there is CIA Director of Corporate Services are designated, but it also includes the position of a Chief Administrative Officer, which it seems weird for me
Probably just.
for Director of Corporate Services, who is a direct report, to be signing a contract of employment with, like, I just think that if the CAO is the employee of council, then any contract for employment for the CAO would need to be signed by the mayor on approval of council.
But not including. So it doesn't include.
Contract of employment for any statutory position as well as the position of Chief Administrative Officer and Senior Management.
But the line at the beginning says, by the way, but not including those two.
Form of communication, but not including the following: collective agreements, we don't have the
Okay.
authority, nor do we have the authority to enter into.
So contracts of employment for senior management, that would be director level position, that also is signed by the mayor. Those are currently, like, what's the process?
Well, for the process.
Because it says or senior management.
Right, typically, senior management are at the director's level, and typically our policy says that that goes to council. Though I have higher fire, but the actual contracts or the establishment has happened here. I'm not sure senior management team is in there, right? Like who, yeah, I think the CAO, but I think that I have authority over you. Not you, because you're statutory, right? So it's statutory positions.
But it says or,
And
So
or
I just
senior
like-
management team. I don't understand the senior management team either.
well,
didn't-
I think when, I'm just kind of trying to think back to when Ms. Henning came on. I think that did come to council for,
By resolution, did it?
It came to
No.
council for discussion.
Yeah,
for the creation of the position, but the
Yeah.
actual, yeah. So I don't know, there's
I'm not
not a
sure
lot of
senior
clarity in
management
there, and
does.
because this is something that is new, that's not established by other policy.
so
Right.
typically the CAO is responsible for the employees underneath he or she. So the senior management team, other than statutory positions, would fall under my responsibility historically. So the addition to this would be a devolution of my authority.
Okay.
And I have no problem devolving my authority. It's, at that point, if council wishes to have the senior management positions come and approved by that, that's fine. The policy that we do have is that, I think it's in a policy, it's a 2-level down policy, whereby anybody that reports to me directly has council's involvement in the selection process. Anybody that reports to a director has my involvement in the selection process, so that there's oversight over the person hiring. So there is oversight, but with respect to, I don't know where you got that.
It was in the precedent that I use, but councils can take out whatever, like
Yeah.
it's entirely a council.
But it's not according to what we do now.
No, and we
So
probably,
you-
we
so
missed
you
that
missed
when we
it.
were reviewing it, yeah.
I have no problem, there's no ego here. If you wish to leave it in, then any replacement of Liz or Steph or Frank would now also come to you for approval. At my position, Elisa has to, it's a statutory position of treasurer.
Clerk.
And the clerk, yeah, but she doesn't report to me anyway, but she would still have to come to you, yeah. Talking about senior manager.
From a good governance, good management, like you said, when you're looking at director hires.
Right.
It's either a unilateral decision by you,
Right.
or it's a decision shared among, like, what's best practice, like, if you're not gonna,
No, I know, it's not
you
about
know.
me, it's about the position. And
Yeah, I
the
mean-
position I would suggest to you, at this level at this level and the sophistication of, large departments and that, I would probably recommend that council, though I would recommend the appointment
Mhm.
to council,
Mhm.
that council should have the final say on those people that are here and dealing with you, because they're dealing with you on a regular basis.
Mhm.
So I have no problem leaving this in. It's just it is a change. But I think it's better practice, better oversight, better control of council to ensure that I don't hire somebody and say, no, I think that my Uncle Bob should really get this job, and then I have the authority, then you can fire me. But I would have no problem with council having I wouldn't want, I wouldn't want that authority delegated to me alone. I think that's too much responsibility.
Okay, thank you. So I'm glad we had that discussion. It's an interesting piece of but it's all based on the fact that I misread it when I looked at it. So that's why it's marked there.
I didn't, and if I was a control freak, I'd say, don't put that in. I think it's appropriate,
Okay,
and I welcome council's input.
thank you. And then there was just the word Midland in there, by the way.
Oh, yes, there was a typo. I will fix that.
Okay. Nothing municipal law enforcement, so that just enshrines all of their enforcement, like the main laws that we are enforcing.
Yep.
Okay,
And it may come back if I missed any.
I'm just going to ask the overall question on this planning, building, and development section. What do I need to know here that's changing from what is current practice, or not even what is current practice, what is set out either in other policies? Because there seemed to be a lot, and there was a lot, like, okay, so for example, the sign bylaw and fence fence bylaw, you have municipal planner, chief building official or designated able to approve minor variances and amendments to the town's sign bylaw. And the reason I kind of have questions about that is, first of all, do we want to put staff in the position where they are making exceptions? Because then it's a lot easier for people to say, well, this guy's allowed to do it and I wasn't allowed to do it. So when we're talking about exceptions to established policies, and maybe it's 2 inches and, it would be truly minor, is it a good position to put staff in? And also, we often talk about the importance of having good policies. So if there are repeated instances where staff is making exceptions or approving minor variances to these bylaws, council is not aware that there are actually issues within the core policies. Because if you are getting multiple requests for variances that are being approved at a staffing level, it means that there is some part of the policy that isn't working well.
So we can respond to that by providing, in addition to the insurance, a report as to what variances are provided. If we're delegating the authority, then inherent in all of that, there should be a report to council, and council should be aware of that. And not to wax philosophically too much, but a lot of times these are delegated to people who have the skills training, the politicization of some of the decision making, where it's my neighbor or this and that. So that cuts both ways. The professionals that do this basically are responsible for seeing that and having a set of criteria. Now, if we're going to be delegating that authority, also set out as to when variances should be allowed and under what conditions. And that is probably more of a policy that needs to flow down from this, as opposed to just willy-nilly saying that they have the authority. There should be also a framework by which they can. And then a report back to council, because if the policy needs tweaking or the bylaw needs tweaking, that should come to council, and council should be aware of it.
Yeah, and there needs to be a really consistent approach to the way it's done, and then
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
be reassured that it is consistent. So not just tracking what's approved, but also if people are declined.
Would it Would sending it to the Committee of Adjustment be a more appropriate process, like delegating it to the
Yeah.
Committee of Adjustment as opposed to the staff?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm just trying to think that one through, like from a start to finish policy side, like I mean, so is
Is
it
that what
tracked when people are
Yeah, this
denied
was
and what
something
the
that,
reasons
Our
are?
planner brought up based on something that was going on in her prior
Okay.
municipality.
I mean, and it's fences and signs, so I understand that these aren't like world problems that we're solving here, but it's just the consistent application and maybe not putting staff, I don't know.
Perhaps a Committee of Adjustment is a good place to put it then.
I don't know.
So the
I
other
don't
issue.
know.
the
Sorry,
other
I feel
issue
like
now-
I'm having a one-sided.
No, the other
one-sided
issue,
conversation.
sorry to, but it is a
Yeah.
committee, and just to help you out,
Yeah.
is when in doubt, if there's some valid things, we can pull it out and park it,
Absolutely.
Okay.
right?
There's no need to
Just take,
to
just
do
take
it
it,
at all.
just take it out for now for a future discussion.
Now, the site plan control, that's done changes to the Planning Act from a
That's correct.
couple of years ago, and it's actually the CAO that is it not in the legislation? The CAO has the right to, like, it's actually in the legislation that it's the CAO that approves site plan, even if he's not a planner.
I will check that because that's,
Yeah.
that's the first I heard, but
Okay.
certainly I'll make a note.
The subdivision extensions, when they come to council right now, is there any reason to take it out? Because it's not really inefficient for it to come to council.
No.
And some of these go on for a long, long time. And so could, I shouldn't just be, I'd like to have council,
Or, right.
I know. And
I'm happy to take it out.
well, I don't know. I'm.
Madam Mayor,
Council.
were you talking about like subdivision extensions or renewal?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, it's tiresome, and I've always been wondering why we're always getting them. If we approve them once or twice,
Yeah,
and then after twice, we don't no longer approve them, or like,
I guess future councils could change their mind, no?
It can, and some municipalities don't, some municipalities will require additional fees. Some municipalities, in the past, before I came here, there never was any renewals. That was something that I brought in, put a time limit to kind of keep development going. But if council just wants to leave approvals open-ended such that they don't expire, then you don't need to do it at all.
no, I'm saying maybe it comes back twice or three times, but after the third time, we tell them like, we don't renew it after a third request, but that's a discussion we can have.
Yeah, we can park this one as well.
Well, there's no hurry on this particular bylaw, right? Like
Yes,
this
there
is
is.
oh,
This bylaw, and this is the last of the ones that municipal affairs is, that we're not compliant with municipal,
okay.
with our municipal required bylaws. So even if we park a bunch
Yeah.
and come back and add stuff later.
I would just like to understand the planning section more.
Right.
Can we park this whole planning section?
Bring Samantha back.
Yeah. And we can pass the bylaw with it. Could we do that? Because there are some other
And then amend
things that I just
Yeah.
want to, and then you can at least pass your bylaw to the client and we can look at this and then do an addition. Is that, would council be in favor of that? Like the couple of minor things that we talked about? And then just park the planning stuff to bring back to a future council discussion?
Not all of it, just the ones you had questions on.
Oh, I have.
No, the ones where you've got consensus, perhaps bring forward the bylaw for approval on where there wasn't any, and stop at this point, and then we'll continue on with a discussion at a future meeting to
Okay.
finish off what we started off.
Okay.
Just so that we can finish the meeting.
Is that okay? Show of hands, we can move that. No? Thank you. Sorry for that, I know it's detailed. Okay, And then under emergency measures and public safety, we have one item, and that is going to go to the chair, Councillor Larrabee.
Madam Mayor, if I can ask if you could choose somebody that's in the room to chair this, please, because I can't see the hands or nothing from here.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Councillor Larrabee. Councillor St. Louis, would you be comfortable since that was your old post?
I will be comfortable to do so.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So
Thank you,
under
Gordon.
under emergency measures and public safety committee, we have one item which is community safety zone. And I will pass it on to Ms. Henning to briefly provide us with the information that she has gathered.
So through you, Mr. Chair, community safety zones, ultimately, I think this is a great idea. We do need to, of course, always be careful that we don't oversign. And when I spoke with the OPP, that was what they said as well. So what I'm suggesting is that we do these community safety zones in existing school zones around the schools and one daycare where we have through traffic on the schools that are on dead end streets. I don't think that there's really much opportunity for speeding there, but we've got Michaud, Ethel, Coruscant, and then Third Avenue and Prince of Hal and Verner. Those are all roads with heavy traffic and a lot of people coming through and a lot of schools. So I'm recommending that we implement this at the existing school where we've got the school zone signs. We would just put the additional sign saying community safety zone, fines are doubled, and then the OPP would be able to enforce that.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions?
No.
So you're going like this. I looked up. I'm looking over there.
Go say you better.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I'd like to thank the staff and Ms. Henning for coming back so quickly on this. And yes, I had noticed there are two schools that were on dead ends, so I agree with that. I think it's a good balance in terms of, not over-signing, but it's covered everything in the downtown core that I had kind of earmarked as necessary. So I would propose that we move forward with a bylaw for what you have proposed. However, I will say that I think that we're overlooking some other problems in our rural towns, and particularly I would say on Highway 64 in Lavigne and Verner and Field. When I looked at this, and also when we discussed it at our meeting in December, I believe, I think we did touch upon that. We have these communities where the speed limit goes down from 80 to 50 in all three areas. And so in a way, there's a greater potential for more serious accidents because I think it's a well-known fact that people are driving through Lavigne without even slowing down. So they're coming faster and it's more dangerous. Now, I know it's a completely different, we can't do it by bylaw. We have to apply to the Solicitor General, and there's a process to do it, but I think we should also look into doing it, not that I think we should delay our own bylaw, but we should look into the process and do it for those three Highway 64 communities.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. The one that I think we missed would be Main Street for Franco Cité.
No, it is included on there.
No, you have.
Oh, it says between Corso and Main Street. for Ethel, but I don't think it says.
Oh,
Maine.
that side
On
of,
Main is
yeah,
a
okay,
bigger
that,
problem for Franco State.
yeah, that would have been included because it would be in that school zone,
Okay.
but yes, you're right.
Anyone else, any questions? Madam Mayor?
I'd just like to say that I would agree with Councillor Ferrand that those areas on Highway 64, both when you turn off Highway 17 through Verner, living is, the speeding through living is worrisome, and especially in the summer, there's such a high volume of people crossing back and forth, to go to the store, to go to the tavern, and to go to the park and such there. I would agree, like, let's move forward with what we have here. But if we can make the moves to kind of address those three areas as well, I think it would be very meaningful for the residents in those communities. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to add that I had also forgot to mention that I had a long conversation with the mayor of North Kawartha, and they have managed to get two zones on Highway 28, which has been historically a problem for accidents and incidents. And she was very good. She shared the whole process, and she sent me a lot of information that I will share with you. And so she's told us exactly how they went about it and how they were successful. But it is a fair amount of work, and it does take quite a while. But I think it's doable, and we just should put the effort in.
I'm sorry.
Anyone else? No? So just a show of hands with, to give staff direction that we go ahead and move forward the community safety zone. However, that we will also entertain the information that Conseil Ferrand provided to us. So all in favor of moving forward with these community safety zones? Thank you. And we'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. We'll just, I would entertain a motion to, what do we call these ones?
Extend curfew.
A motion to extend curfew. It shouldn't take us much longer to wrap up, but we are at 9:29 right now. So mover and a seconder would be required. Councillor Rivard, Councillor Pellerin.
Moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Pellerin. At approximately 9:29 p.m., a motion was tabled to extend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Next, we move on to the regular portion of our meeting and 7.1 consent agenda.
It is moved by Councillor St. Louis and seconded by Councillor Ferrand. Be it resolved that the consent agenda for the Council and Committee of the Whole meeting on January 7th, 2025 be approved.
Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Nothing under planning, correspondence, or unfinished business. 7.5 new business.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Nicol. Whereas Section 4.3 of the procedural bylaw dictates that council regular meetings will be scheduled for the first and third Tuesdays of each month. And whereas multiple council members will be unavailable to attend the regular January 21st, 2025 meeting due to participation in the Roma Conference. And be it resolved that council hereby authorizes a deviation from the regular meeting and that the January 21st council meeting be pushed to January 22nd, 2025 at the usual time and location.
Questions or comments? Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I will be unable to attend.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Restfeld.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm gonna have to double check too. I may have a Board of Health meeting that evening, but I can double check and get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
If I can't
Councillor
make it.
Ferrand.
Would it make sense to consider the Thursday if everyone can attend on Thursday?
Is Thursday a better date for? Is there any issues at the staff level for Thursday?
Not that I'm aware of.
January 23rd. Thursday, January 23rd. Okay, I would need a motion. Oh,
So
sorry.
you already sent us an email about attending January 23rd, 27th, or 29th.
Yeah, that's not gonna work anyway, so.
Okay.
Okay. If that's the case, I would need a motion to amend. Okay, Councillor Ferrin, a motion to amend to Thursday, January 3rd instead of Wednesday, the 22nd. Does that work for?
Need a second.
Oh, sorry, are you seconding, Jamie, or are you also seconding, Jamie,
Yep.
Councillor Westfall?
There's a motion on the floor to amend the resolution to change the meeting from the proposed January 22nd to January 23rd.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, sorry, I should ask for any other questions or comments first, but all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so then that's, okay, thank you very much.
It is moved by Councillor Nichol and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-01, being a bylaw of the municipality of West Nipissing, to set the 2025 interim tax rate shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, so just for Councillor Ferrin, who hasn't been here for one of these before, this isn't setting the final tax rate. We are still waiting for our assessments from our outside boards. What this does is allow staff to bill at the 2024 rate for the first two. Is that something like that? It may be at
It's
least
half of the prior year.
half of what the prior year was until we finalize, and then the second, the third and fourth installment include the final, just so we're not actually saying this is, okay? Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried?
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Nichol. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-02, being a bylaw of the West Nipissing municipality to borrow money to meet municipal expenditures shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Thank you. Lisa, do you want to just give the quick Coles notes for Councillor Ferrin?
Again, this is because we have a line of credit. We're not in our line of credit, but because we maintain a line of credit attached to our bank account. This is one that we have to do every year, and we just provide it to the bank saying that we've got, that it's still approved. You'll see that there is a $5 million line of credit on the bank account. We have this small caveat that a portion of it can be designated to West Nipissing Environmental Services, which just means that if they were in trouble, the municipality can sort of lend them the funds to cover that. But it is just a routine one that our bank requires every year to maintain that line of credit.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor? Carried, thank you.
It is moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Whereas requests for quotations were sought for the purchase of a new articulated grader, and whereas 3 quotations were received, and whereas Council concurs with the recommendation received, be it resolved that the quotation for the purchase of a new articulated grader be awarded to Tormont Cat in the amount of $621,534, meeting all specifications.
Thank you. I just asked for, so we are not accepting the lowest quote here.
So typically you would accept the lowest, except that the recommendation from staff is to go with the, given they're fairly equal. What came into play was the delivery times and the need to rent a vehicle at about $14,000 a month. We estimate that there's an additional 2 months. Now, this could be a variety, and there's, we had a meeting today on do we vary from what our, what the purchasing kind of criteria were, and to the more financially expedient, and we leave it to council to award. That you are aware, though, that we are not awarding it to the lowest person, and that council in the language does have the ability to override some of the policies and practices if you feel it's expedient to do so. I don't know if that's the appropriate language, Elisa. So on the one side releases the procurement police, and so we had that discussion. So we are stating that for you so that you're aware.
Okay, and what's the delivery date for the 619? Like, what's the difference in the delivery date?
Oh, the low bid was,
70 days.
70 to 130.
140.
Yeah.
yeah.
So significant. Okay, so I'll put the question to council. Questions or comments? Councillor Larrabee?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd really like to commend the staff for choosing Toromont. Even though both machine does the same as far as an operator, the Toromont machine outdoes it by experience. So your employees are definitely going to enjoy it, and it seems like we've in the past years, this is the line of machinery that we've been going to with anyway. So I think this is a very good choice that they done. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Larrabee.
Just to be clear, that the specifications that were sent out were bid on by both firms, and that again, to reiterate the rationale would be one for in the best interest of cost to the taxpayer, so that we're aware on the record as to why staff is recommending this.
Yeah, understood. Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Paveri?
Just curious, the other, what brands are they?
John Deere.
John Deere was the brand, was John Deere, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or comments? A resolution on the floor. All those in favor? All those in favor? Thank you. Carried. Okay, and that's the last item of on the agenda. We are over time. I will not give a mayor's report this evening, but I will say on behalf of all of our members of council, I do wish all of our residents a very happy new year, and we're looking forward to working for you in 2025. Thank you. Have a good night.
It is moved by Councillor Gagne and seconded by Councillor Rivard. Resolved that bylaw number 2025-04 being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on January the 7th, 2025 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
All in favor? Carried.
It's moved by Councillor Rivard and seconded by Councillor Gagne. Be it resolved that council and committee of the whole meeting held on January the 7th, 2025 be adjourned.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much.
Hi, Jamie.
Bye, Jamie.
Hope you're feeling
Sorry
better,
you
guys.
guys are feeling sick, unwell.
Good night, everyone.